In the small fishing village of Cresthaven, nestled on the rugged coastline of Maine, a solitary lighthouse stood as both a beacon of hope and a harbinger of dread. The townsfolk whispered about its haunted history, and none dared to venture near after sunset. Cresthaven had once thrived as a bustling fishing port, its fortunes tied to the abundant sea. But as the years passed, the town's prosperity waned, and the lighthouse's light grew dim. The villagers began to tell stories of the lighthouse's keeper, Old Henry, who had vanished one fateful night, leaving the light to flicker like a dying ember. The legend told of a curse, an ancient pact between the town and the sea that had bound Old Henry to the lighthouse. On the night he disappeared, a tempest had raged, and a spectral figure was said to have emerged from the waves, dragging him into the depths. Since that night, the lighthouse had become a cursed place, and those who ventured too close at night claimed to hear eerie whispers carried on the wind. Ella, a spirited and inquisitive young woman, had grown up in Cresthaven hearing these tales. But unlike the superstitious villagers, she felt drawn to the lighthouse's mysteries. She often found herself standing at the edge of the cliffs, staring out at the dark silhouette of the lighthouse against the stormy sea. One brisk autumn evening, as a full moon hung low on the horizon, Ella decided to confront the lighthouse's legend. Armed with her father's old lantern and a daring spirit, she made her way up the narrow path that led to the cursed structure. The wind howled as she approached the lighthouse. The structure loomed like a shadowy sentinel against the inky blackness of the night. Ella's lantern cast an eerie glow as she ascended the lighthouse's winding staircase, her footsteps echoing in the silence. She reached the lantern room, where Old Henry would have once tended to the light. The room was empty and damp, the glass panes covered in salt and sea spray. Ella lit the lantern, casting a beam of light out to sea. The pale, ghostly light revealed nothing but the restless waves below. As she gazed out to sea, Ella became aware of a soft, haunting melody carried on the breeze. The tune was both melancholic and beautiful, a haunting serenade that seemed to beckon her. She followed the sound, making her way to the balcony that encircled the lighthouse. The melody grew louder, and Ella's heart quickened as she spotted a figure in the distance, standing waist-deep in the churning waters. It was a young man with eyes as dark as the sea, and he sang a mournful song that stirred her soul. "Who are you?" Ella called out, her voice carried away by the wind. The man did not answer but continued to sing, his haunting melody filling the air. Ella's curiosity overcame her fear, and she climbed over the railing and descended the rocks to the shoreline. The man's song seemed to lead her further into the dark, tempestuous sea. As she approached, she saw that he was wreathed in seaweed, and his pallid skin seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly light. His outstretched hand beckoned her closer, and she felt a strange, irresistible pull. Before she knew it, Ella was ankle-deep in the frigid sea. The water was icy, and her lantern had extinguished. The man's song continued, growing more haunting with each step she took. Suddenly, Ella was seized by a powerful undertow. She struggled against the currents, her desperate cries muffled by the relentless waves. The man's hand reached out to her, but before he could grasp her, the sea swallowed her whole. Ella awoke on a desolate beach, the moonlight casting long shadows on the sand. She felt disoriented, her clothes soaked and heavy. As her senses returned, she realized she was alone, with no sign of the mysterious man or the lighthouse. With a heavy heart, Ella trudged back to Cresthaven, where the villagers were aghast at her story. They told her that the man she had seen was none other than Old Henry, the lighthouse keeper who had vanished decades ago. They believed he had taken her as a replacement, a living soul to maintain the lighthouse and keep the curse at bay. Ella's life took a somber turn as she assumed her duties as the new lighthouse keeper. She found herself drawn to the sea, and the lantern's pale light guided the ship safely away from the treacherous rocks. But every night, she could hear the haunting melody on the wind and see the spectral figure beckoning from the waves. Years passed, and Ella aged, but the lighthouse seemed to have preserved her youth. The villagers grew fearful of her, believing she had become a part of the curse. She was shunned and lonely, her only company the restless sea and the mournful song that echoed through her nights. One stormy night, a ship approached Cresthaven, tossed by the tempestuous sea. The crew was desperate, and Ella, though shunned by the villagers, could not bear to see them perish. She lit the lantern, guiding the ship away from the rocks into the safety of the harbor. The villagers were amazed by her sacrifice, and they realized that Ella's compassion and bravery had broken the curse. The legend of the lighthouse keeper's curse had been laid to rest, and Ella was finally embraced as a hero in Cresthaven. But as she gazed out at the stormy sea, Ella knew that old Henry's song would always linger in the wind, a haunting reminder of the price she had paid and the mystery she had become. The lighthouse would forever stand as a sentinel, watching over the tumultuous sea, and Ella would remain its eternal keeper. And so, the legend of the lighthouse keeper's curse became a tale of redemption and sacrifice, a reminder that even in the face of darkness, there could be a glimmer of light, a beacon of hope in the storm.